Hi everyone, Susan Storm here, the founder of PsychologyJunkie.com, and today I want to talk about what INFJs bring to a relationship and what INFJs need in a relationship. So I like to call INFJs the deep partners, and that's because INFJs have this really interesting, profound insight into the world and the bigger picture, why we're here, patterns that are going on beneath the surface. INFJs need depth. They need an ability to explore the undercurrents of life, the stuff you don't see, the stuff that you don't feel, the stuff you don't sense with your physical senses. They want to be able to have this really profound relationship with the person that they're with. Another quality about INFJs in relationships that you will notice really quickly is that they are wildly empathic. So I recently ran a survey of over 3,000 people. I surveyed over 90,000 people, but I got over 3,000 responses. And one of the questions I asked in the survey was, do you naturally absorb other people's emotions to the point of confusing them with your own? And INFJs were the type that had the most responses of yes. 82.14% answered yes or most of the time to this question. So this ability to absorb other people's emotions is an incredible strength of the INFJ in the sense that it makes them really insightful about people, really emotionally supportive, really in tune to what other people are going through. And this also is what drives many INFJs into careers that have to do with counseling, religion, spirituality, the arts, anything that could be any place where they could emotionally support and help another person. So let's look at the INFJ preferences, those letters that you see in their type code, and talk about how those preferences impact INFJs in relationships. So the I in INFJ stands for introvert, and for introverts, the world inside their mind is the most real world to them. They get the most energy when they can delve into their own thoughts, their own insights, their own imaginative ideas, anything that takes place inside the mind. So introverts need a lot of alone time, and this definitely goes for INFJs. INFJs need a lot of alone time, and some of this has to do with the fact that INFJs do so easily pick up on other people's emotions. When they're with other people, they can so easily absorb what everyone else is going through that they can become very drained in the process. And that alone time gives them the chance to access their own thoughts, their own ideas, their own values, and check in with themselves and regain and bolster the energy they need in order to get through the day. So INFJs deeply need alone time. So if you're an extroverted partner with an INFJ, make sure to keep this in mind and make absolutely sure not to take it personally if an INFJ needs a break from hanging out and talking. Make sure you give them that opportunity without begrudging them that, because otherwise they're going to completely drain themselves. Their energy battery is going to get completely destroyed if they're with people all the time and they're constantly having to interact with other individuals. This can mean when they get back from work, make sure to give them a little time to decompress before they have to jump into interacting with everyone else. Now let's look at the N in their type code. The N stands for intuitive. And intuitives are far more interested in concepts, ideas, and the abstract than they are in the tangible world around them and the details of what is around them. Sensors are interested in what they can see, smell, touch, taste, hear, and experience. Sensors are all about what's real around them that they can experience, whereas intuitives are more interested in the things you don't see. They're interested in theoretical possibilities. They're interested in patterns. They're interested in ripple effects and how one thing influences another down the road. They're interested in concepts. So for INFJs, in a relationship, this can show up as wanting to explore these really deep, profound subjects with their partner. Subjects like, what do we really believe in? And what do we stand for? And what's life all about? And what does love really mean? Is this love, or is this just infatuation? Is this just, trying to escape the fear of death and being alone? What does this all mean? And for INFJs, there's always this interest in the bigger picture and the deeper, more probing questions that a lot of people shy away from asking themselves. In their mind, there's always this question of what else is going on here, or what's behind everything that I'm seeing. So what sensors see, that's the real world. They might ask deeper questions too, don't get me wrong. But what INFJs see, that's just a curtain hanging over the real interesting stuff that's going on behind the curtain. And INFJs are always trying to figure out what's the deeper layer. You know, if you look at an onion, there's the outer layer, but there's all these other layers. And INFJs are trying to get to that very inner core of meaning behind the surface of reality. And so they need to have a partner that can let them explore in this territory and can also go along for the ride with it. This is many times why INFJs are drawn to intuitive partners, because they can both enjoy that playground a lot more. But this does not mean that INFJs can't be happy with sensing partners. I know so many INFJs who are. The sensor just has to be willing to go there with them and explore concepts from time to time and actually respect the INFJ's process, whereas some sensing types can kind of brush it off as like, why are you thinking about these weird woo-woo abstract things? Like, let's focus on what we can do right now. Did you like this pizza? I mean, why are you talking about death and grief and what that means when you're eating pepperoni pizza? You know what I mean? INFJs need to have a partner who can actually respect their process rather than always brushing it aside as something that's too woo-woo or too abstract or maybe not down to earth enough for them. Let's talk about the feeling preference. That's where you get the F in INFJ. So INFJs are deeply feeling, deeply empathic individuals. They're very concerned with people, how people work, how their minds work, how people interact with one another. And they're very concerned with maintaining harmony in their surroundings and having everyone getting along and having good relationships. INFJs really crave deep, intimate connections with another person. They don't want surface level relationships. They want meaningful, deep, honest, authentic relationships where they can really connect on this really deep soul level. And again, that empathy comes into play. INFJs tend to really take on the emotional burdens of the person they're with. And sometimes this can mean that they lose themselves in the relationships, or they take on too much, or they become just completely overwhelmed by the other person's experience. In many situations, I've heard of INFJs, I've talked to INFJs who habitually end up with these kind of emotional vampires who sense that empathic nature, that really caring, supportive nature of the INFJ, and just take as much of that from them as they can get in order to satisfy their own neediness. And this is completely exhausting for INFJs because it is so natural for them to give, and it is so natural for them to absorb and help and really sacrifice themselves for their partner. And so these emotional vampires can sense this natural tendency within them and just take all they can get till the INFJ is completely drained, completely devoid of what makes them so happy. And so it's really important for INFJs to look out for people like this. And it's really important, if you're in a relationship with an INFJ, that you are also giving emotionally to them and not just taking. So if they are constantly empathizing with you and trying to understand how your mind works and trying to get into your shoes, take some time and try to do the same for them. Ask them questions about how their mind works. Ask them questions about their needs and their emotions. Give them opportunities to talk about these abstract ideas that they love so much. Affirm the efforts that they're taking to preserve and take care of you and the relationship. Be very specific with your compliments. Take time to really thank them and show gratitude for the efforts that they're making. And make sure that they're also getting enough alone time so that they aren't empathizing with you to the point of complete and total exhaustion and depletion. Let's now talk about the J in the INFJ type code. That stands for judging. So judging types really like having a plan, a vision, and an agenda for what is going to happen. They tend to approach their day with the thought of how can I organize this day to achieve my goals? How can I best make certain things happen? So judgers happen to their day versus the day happening to them. And INFJs, because of this, really like to have a plan for their relationship. They really like to have a vision for where the relationship is headed. Their mind is constantly going to be looking at the ripple effects of everything happening within the relationship. And so if they're in a really casual relationship that lacks any kind of clear plan, and maybe it's the definition of the relationship is changing from day to day, that's going to be really stressful for them, because their mind is constantly going, what does this mean for the future? What is the plan for the future? What's my goal here? And in a relationship where it's like, well, we're just taking things casual, we'll just see what happens from day to day, it's really difficult for them to make peace with that and the side of themselves that's constantly future forecasting. So that is another thing to keep in mind. It isn't that INFJs can't enjoy casual relationships. Some can, but they need to have a clear vision that this is as far as the relationship is ever going to go. So that they, with these definite structures around what to expect, then they can have a little bit more peace in what the relationship is. But if the context of the relationship is unclear and ambiguous and it's constantly changing, then that's going to be really hard for them. INFJs are deeply loyal people. When they care about someone, they care about them 100% through thick and thin. And so casual relationships where they can't place their loyalty 100% tend to just be difficult for them. Now, comment if you're an INFJ who feels very differently about this. I would love to hear from a variety of different INFJs and their thoughts and experiences in relationships. But this is a common complaint I've heard from INFJs, a common struggle that I've seen with INFJs time and time again. And this often has to do with that judging part of their personality that really wants a clear agenda, a clear plan, and a clear direction for where the relationship is going to go. Let's talk now about love languages. Many of you have probably heard of the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman. These love languages are the ways that we like to give and receive love most. And a lot of times we tend to show love in the way we like to receive love. And then our partner might have a totally different love language. For example, your way of giving and receiving love might be through doing acts of service, and your partner's way of giving and receiving love might be through words of affirmation. So if you're like cleaning out their car and cooking dinner and you're not giving compliments or affirming their efforts, they might feel like, oh, that person doesn't love me, when really you deeply love that person. It's just that you're not showing it to them in their love language. So the top 2 love languages for INFJs are quality time and words of affirmation. So if you really want an INFJ to feel loved in the relationship, make sure that you are setting aside time for one-on-one connection with them. And make sure that you are giving specific compliments and affirmations about things that you're doing to preserve the relationship, to take care of you as a person. Little things that they do that maybe you've started taking for granted, make sure that you start noticing those things and affirming them. If it's hard for you to talk about this kind of stuff in person, you can even write a letter or little sticky notes and put them around the house to just remind the INFJ that you notice what they're doing, you see them and their efforts, and you appreciate it. A little bit of affirmation and appreciation can go a long way with an INFJ. So make sure that you are really acknowledging the efforts that they put into your relationship with them. So let's talk about the strengths. Let's kind of sum this up, the strengths of INFJs. First, empathy, that amazing ability to really sense what someone else is going through and be there for them in an active, supportive, caring way. Second, listening skills. INFJs are really good at tuning out distractions and being present with the person who's talking to them and empathizing with them and really actively listening. Loyalty. INFJs with a partner tend to be the people who are there during the roughest times as well as the hard times, as well as the good times. And they aren't the types to just, drop the ball when things get tough. Insightfulness. INFJs are very insightful about people. They often know things about people that others don't even realize about themselves. They may not say it all because that might disrupt the harmony, but they're often extremely wise about people, their motivations, what they're feeling, their patterns, their habits, and even the unknown tendencies and undercurrents in that person's personality. And finally, depth. INFJs are really capable of helping bring their partner into an awareness of what's really important in life, the bigger picture, these meanings and profound understandings that a lot of other types and couples just kind of skate through the surface of life. They're thinking about, well, what do we want to do this weekend, or what are we going to make for dinner, or what I'm going to wear to this event. Whereas INFJs, they're going to bring a lot of depth and insight and profound understanding into the relationship. You'll go into a relationship with INFJ having this level of understanding about life, and then you'll leave having, this wild understanding about life and what it means that you probably didn't know before. So these are some things to keep in mind with an INFJ. Struggles that INFJs often face. We've talked about these a lot, so I'm just going to go over them briefly to sum it up. They need a lot of alone time, so extroverted partners need to make sure that they are facilitating that. They also need consideration for their highly empathic nature. INFJs can take on way too much of other people's feelings and lose themselves or over-give to the point of exhaustion in a relationship. So they need a partner who's not going to be an emotional vampire. So check yourself to make sure that you're not a constant energy taker for the INFJ. INFJs can struggle with spontaneity or a lack of a clear direction in a relationship. They like to have a clear vision and a clear idea of where they stand and what their status is in the relationship. INFJs can also struggle to voice their own needs and desires. Many INFJs are givers and they're constantly thinking of what the other person needs, but it can be much harder for them to voice what they need and what they're going through because they can see this as being selfish when it's really not. So having a partner who can pull them aside and tell them, hey, what's really going on with you? What do you actually need? And create a space for authenticity is really important. This is actually where sometimes they do really well with introverted feeling partners because the introverted feeling partner is good at helping them actually stop and notice themselves and their own needs and desires. Another thing is that INFJs need depth, and sometimes that's hard to find in the world. Sometimes it's hard for intuitives, particularly INFJs, to find people who can really get into that deeper space with them and have the patience to explore these abstract concepts with them and these bigger picture topics and take it seriously. So these are the strengths of the INFJ and the struggles of the INFJ in relationships, but you can find out lots more on my website at psychologyjunkie.com. I've written over 1,000 articles about the personality types. Like and subscribe for more videos and let me know what you think in the comments. See you next time.